Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well, hope you all had a good New Year's. Today we're going to be going back a bit and talking about some news that popped up a few days ago already in regards to the upcoming 007 First Light game by the Hitman developers IO Interactive. Statements that raise significant concern as to how this game is going to turn out, especially when it comes to story and characters. I'll show you guys what happened in case you don't know yet, but then we're going to dive into the matter and I'll give you my take on it, plus responses to some of the main arguments being made by the game's staunch defenders, which I vehemently disagree with and found to be also very ironic, including one from a voice actor I really like. It's always sad when I see industry folks that I hold in high regard going down the road of just hating criticism from people because, well, it's criticism, while not understanding why people don't trust the AAA side of the games industry right now. But anyway, let's just get right into it since we have a lot to go over. So specifically what happened was, there were statements in regards to the character, mentioning that the studio was drifting away from the earlier Bond characteristics and instead moving the character towards reflecting modern values.
Oh, here we go again. Here we go again.
On its own, this statement is very vague and could mean many things, not all of them extremely negative, which is why I want us to look at the full statement and the reasons behind it. I find that the best way to pinpoint things is to look at the reason someone is doing something rather than the thing itself. So let me just read the full statement here and then we'll tackle it bit by bit. Speaking to Monstervine, cinematics director Martin Amborg revealed that while there will be elements of the smooth-talking Bond that many have come to expect from the franchise, he will be a modern guy and will reflect modern values. When asked at the Game Awards 2025 about whether or not their spy will share some of the earlier Bond's characteristics, specifically focusing on the character's womanizer tendencies, Amborg explained, "Yeah, you will see that." However, he went on to explain that the character of Bond has evolved, adding, "So he's evolved through the decades and obviously we reflect modern values. So it's not going to be your old school Bond, which would just be tone deaf in this day, right? He's a modern guy." Boy oh boy, do I already have a lot to say about this, but let's finish up with the article's personal viewpoint on this. The earlier James Bond's films in particular have rightly come under fire over the spy's treatment of women, as well as being generally inappropriate. The spy even resorts to hitting women, for example in The Man with the Golden Gun, where Roger Moore's Bond slaps Andrea Anders and then threatens to break her arm. Alright, so let's wade through this sludge of a statement and get some big things out of the way first that are just annoying me right off the get-go. The very concept of demonizing media for morality is utterly stupid. This is something my mind just can't comprehend at all. This ridiculous expectation of wanting fictional characters that don't exist to embody pristine moral values in just about anything, including highly fictionalized settings. It's as if these characters were running for governor or some shit. This is boring, and I'd say it's one of the main things to blame for modern characters and stories to be written in such a boring way. There is nothing that they can do that can be surprising or challenging for the viewer, or in this case, the player, because the characters must be good and embody goodness. And this goodness, by the way, must be a very specific collection of moral/political values that run in tandem with whatever the current zeitgeist is. One of the most exciting things about certain stories in video games to me is when you don't have a correct choice. When you get to explore challenging situations where decisions are morally gray or just shouldn't even be looked at with a moral lens at all. And it's not that I don't like to see certain aspects of morality being, depicted in media. For example, I love The Lord of the Rings, and it's just one of those stories where the heroes truly are good and it's basically a story of good versus evil. I don't dislike that, but it's like these morons don't know how to write this kind of thing. And so whenever they do, we don't get characters like Aragorn or Samwise Gamgee or Gandalf. We get soy boys. Soy boys and contemporary examples of political correctness. And this is beyond boring. Some people say they wish that we could get a new prototype game these days, for example, and this is precisely why I don't want one. Instead of an Alex Mercer, you'd get a cuck who spreads flowers and rainbows rather than a corrosive virus that rots and destroys everything it touches, because the likelihood of the game landing in the hands of people who are obsessed with optics and social impact is far bigger than it landing in the hands of normal game developers who just want to make a good, fun game. And this whole thing is packed with bad faith manipulative framing. In the example given from the man with the golden gun, Bond slaps the woman and threatens her because she had ties to the villain. Later, it's known that she didn't like him very much and wanted him gone, but in that moment, all that Bond knows is that she has ties to the assassin that he's chasing, and so he demands the information. She resists and acts evasive at first, which is what forces him to escalate. So what the is the problem with using force in this scene? Are we supposed to cope now and say that, oh no, violence should never be inflicted upon a woman on the silver screen under no circumstance whatsoever? Well, what if she was the assassin? What if she was about to whack him? He shouldn't have acted the way he did, should just stand there like a moron and get shot? But never even mind that, because the main thing that is the most ridiculous and annoying is, again, this notion that James Bond must be this picture-perfect hero, this representation of all the best values in our modern, contemporary world, because, oh, people are watching and they must not get bad ideas from prominent characters. And it's just like, what are we doing? What are you talking about? Again, he's not running for governor, he's a character in the goddamn movie.
You know, like if you watch a movie, right, and one character says to another character, say, hey, what's your number, man? 555-5555. Because stupid ass people go to the movies and then go home and try to call the characters that they just saw. Hello, is Indiana Jones here? No, motherfucker, he's fake. It's not his number.
Do these people not have parents at home or some shit to educate them? Maybe instead of writing dogshit articles like these or hit pieces on why the old Bond characters are bad because they represent bad antiquated moral values, they should instead shut the fuck up and go raise their kids, instead of expecting fictional characters to do it for them. Also, you're looking for what? Characters with very strong moral values? Go read the damn Bible then. Why are we pushing this into entertainment? Like, holy crap, this is just so infuriating. Let the character be a character. Stop idolizing them. Stop propping them up as socio-political symbols. Stop expecting these companies to use them to represent you and your bullshit. This right here is the death of good media. It's right here that entertainment shifts into just being a hybrid with propaganda. And it's boring. It's lame. I don't want it. Nobody does. We had years of this, we're tired, we want escapism, we don't want moral lessons. Bond is a suave piece of shit spy guy, okay? That's what he is. He's meant to be cold, borderline arrogant, charismatic, seductive, and completely uncaring as it pertains to his task. He's not a hero, he's a man on a mission. Emotions and relationships are outside of his priorities. Getting shit done and being loyal to his service are what matters. He's vain, he likes luxury, gadgets, and using whatever he has at his disposal to achieve his ultimate goal. That's it. He's not Captain America, he's not Spider-Man, he's not Superman, he's not even fucking Batman. These people have to stop moralizing over characters. The earlier Bond films in particular have rightly come under fire. Rightly? By whose standards? You and your retarded journo friends who are looking at James Bond the way you look at a babysitter profile or some shit? Hell, I think they scrutinize fictional characters more than they scrutinize their friends, family, and representatives. And the ultimate point is, these people do not represent the fans of James Bond. Whoever wrote this doesn't matter. Or the fans of anything, honestly. They're Karen journalists who companies pay way too much attention to. They're irrelevant, and that leads me to my next point. Sorry about that little rant, fellas. Let's get back to the article. So now we're gonna look at the words of the developer again. So the character of Bond has evolved through the decades, and obviously we reflect modern values. So it's not going to be your old school Bond, which would just be tone deaf in this day, right? Wrong. This is irony at its finest. This man thinks that old school Bond would just be tone deaf and they have to make him more modern. Meanwhile, that's exactly what Bond fans don't want. He's the one who's actually tone deaf. And is it even a surprise? I bet it's a goddamn echo chamber in this studio, just like so many others across AAA. How many studios have we seen wanting to distance themselves from old school values or old school representations of characters in video games, or, old school energy, let's say, when it comes to these AAA video games, and characters especially, even character design, to modernize them? And then how many times have we seen this shit fail? It's practically a common theme at this point. It's rare that we see a character be truly representative of what they used to be when it comes to stuff like this. And we can take Tomb Raider as an active example. That's actually perfect because we just saw the reveal of the new design a few weeks ago during the Game Awards. Even though it's not quite the old school Lara Croft as we knew her over a decade ago, it's still a move away from the Survivor trilogy look and an embracing of what we used to have. We have that classic Lara look again, with their classic outfit, dual-wielding pistols, and moving with their classic graceful acrobatics. And now, with hopes that they will also nail her femme fatale personality, the fan reaction was positive. Except for the soy boys who were crying about her, not being made into an ugly ogre, but those people are irrelevant, and that's the point. Now, why was it majority positive? Because we want to fucking return to what these characters used to be, before morons decided to start diluting them and turning them into boring templates for the modern audience. People don't want modernized characters, they want what we used to have, they want the characters the way that they were. And sometimes, it doesn't even have necessarily to do directly with thematic reasons. Like, there's some people who might be watching this video right now, and you fellas might be thinking, well, I actually wouldn't mind having a more modern take or whatever on character XYZ, and that's fine. Sometimes it might even work. The problem is that these people pushing for this kind of shit right now are incapable of doing it. Like, I don't know what it is, but they just fail terribly. When it comes to writing, they are just boring, dead, lifeless, totally lacking of anything interesting. And when it comes to design, they look boring, flat, and sometimes so ugly that it might just tank a video game in under 2 weeks. Just like a return to classic Lara, old school Bond is what would have made this game's reveal go wild across the board, instead of the ambivalence that we got. You step outside of the game's media or YouTube circle and you check what people are actually saying, and there's way too many feeling lukewarm or just forgetting that 007 First Light exists, myself included. Not because of the gameplay, the gameplay looked good. I haven't seen much of it, but as a fan of the Hitman games, I'm sure it's going to play really well. That's not the issue. The issue is everything else. It's these character designs, the dialogue and the scenes in the trailer. They make it look like just yet another default, safe, template, AAA video game with nothing cool or exciting that stands out. In other words, it's boring. Though, to be fair, maybe saying that it would go wild is a bit much. To be fair, I don't think that James Bond is that popular anymore in general. But something different surely would have caught more attention, because of course, James Bond might not be as popular anymore, but it can definitely grow in popularity again. All it needs is good shit instead of things like this. Shit that is then packaged with tone-deaf statements like these, where they assume that what we want, the gamers, TM, is James Bond for the modern audience. Like, that shit just kills the game for me. It's like a tag that says, hey, 2026, the year with all these crazy games coming out? Yeah? Well, don't bother with this one. Save your money and your time for anything else. Like, let me get this straight, you're asking us for $70 to buy your James Bond game, but at the same time you're telling us that this isn't a James Bond game. It's actually a modern take because actual James Bond is tone deaf these days and you would rather reflect modern values. Like, what is this? What are you, fucking stupid? Which leads me to this whole other thing that we're going to get into now, but we're better off structuring it as responses to some of the arguments being made in defense of the game, and this statement from the developers about modernizing Bond. So let's get in there. In this section, we're going to be talking about more tone deafness from people, major issues when it comes to mistrusting these big AAA publishers, the intention behind the statement that was made, and a few extra things that I may drift off and rant about in the meantime. But we're going to do it responding to some key arguments defending this, so let's start with this one from Elias Tofexis, or Elias, or whatever. He's an actor I really like the work of. I would say he's most known for playing Adam Jensen, the protagonist of Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, but fun fact, he's also Federico, Ezio's brother in Assassin's Creed 2, Leonidas and Nikolaos, the protagonist's father in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and among other things. Oh, he's also the protagonist in Hell Is Us, which is a terrific game as well. Anyway, he's in a lot of stuff. So he saw this shared by some people on Twitter, and he dropped this reply here. I can't remember right now if it was Endymion or Grums or Smash, this was a couple of days ago already now, but his response was, they called Daniel Craig's Bond movies Bond's Modern Masculinity, which is the same damn thing. You guys are always feverishly searching for things to complain about. Now, I looked into this and I didn't find anything specific where the developers referred to Daniel Craig's movies, like, at all. So I think what Elias is referring to is the mainstream media in general, who have often kind of looked at Daniel Craig's movies and praised them for being Bond, but a more contemporarily fitting version of the character instead of the more old school one. So we don't actually know anything in regards to the developer's intentions and mindset. Elias doesn't know whether this is the same damn thing or not. He's just being positive about it and trusting the studio while being upset that there's people out there who complain about it. But frankly, that's bullshit. Like, I'm sorry bro, but yes, I don't trust this industry for shit, and it's frankly naive and out of touch for him to do so and complain about those who don't. Like, if you want to trust it, go ahead and trust it, be positive, pre-order the game, play it, I don't care. But don't talk shit to people who don't share your positive mindset. Because that is, what is the word that they're using? Oh yes, tone deaf. These publishers have been nickeling and diming people for years now and dedicating themselves to shit that is antithetical to game development. And the access media is even worse. They've been operating on deliberate bad faith misinterpretations and demonization of their audiences for years now with no signs of stopping. Last year, well, 2 years ago now, so I'll just say the number actually. In 2024, they labeled fans of Black Myth Wukong as bad people. The wrong type of fans, they called us. And now, during 2025, just last month after the Game Awards, they did it again for Lords of the Fallen 2 over nothing. All that happened was the CEO and the developers were answering questions from fans and confirmed that the game would have good-looking female character designs and a variety of armors, some of which will be revealing, others not. So on, so forth. That's it. That's all that it took for the media to label the game a bad game for, again, the wrong kind of people. And even in this very article that Elias is responding to, they are doing this disingenuous framing again with that example from the man with the golden gun. So no, big dog, sorry, love your work in the industry, but you're way out of line. People aren't feverishly looking for things to complain about. The shit is just there. Like, what the fuck do you want me to say? Nobody forced the developers to engage with bad faith media like this and feed them exactly what they wanted to run a story like this, virtue signaling about the Bond character of old by dropping the modern values bullshit. Developers keep doing this to themselves, they haven't learned yet. We keep warning them, hey, drop the virtue signaling bullshit, it's unattractive, drop the modern audience nonsense, drop all this bullshit that has nothing to do with game development, and just deliver us a good game that appeals to us. You know, the people with money who actually buy your products. But instead, they keep engaging with these media outlets that literally feed off of this shit. Like, this is what they want. They want developers to say dumb things like these because it affirms their cabals of activists and generates clicks from controversy on their websites. Then people react, and somehow it's the people's fault. It's also worth noting that Elias is voicing one of the poor sod characters of Marathon, another game that has been getting absolutely cooked online. So trust me, I understand if he has a bit of a, a bit of a bone to pick with gamers TM, right, who are roasting a game that isn't even out yet, but like, I don't know man, tough shit. They don't even fit the original Marathon design from the original game at all. I don't even know why Bungie is calling this Marathon, it has nothing to do with it at all. And then at the end of the day, it's just yet another one of these extraction shooters. Again, man, I'm sorry, Chief, but way too many people got way too comfortable with toxic positivity. We were very tolerant for a long time, but we're at a point now where bad decisions that end in flops are being rewarded and repeated in future games. So if people don't speak up now, that the industry is already, imploding in on itself, basically crashing and burning, we're never going to be able to speak up ever again, because the companies are just going to go away. All of these beloved IPs are going to go away. He's a fucking victim of that. There was a Deus Ex game that was being made. It's gone. It's shit-canned. And no, it's not just because of these reasons. There's many reasons why these companies struggle, but if we can't criticize them and talk about them, then what are we doing? At least with criticism and feedback, maybe there's something that they can do, like they can listen to us and maybe change some things. I heard that Marathon is getting some changes. I hope they change the voice chat situation. It's utterly stupid that they want to do an extraction shooter with no goddamn proximity chat because of these exact worries. They're worried that, oh no, the players, they say insensitive things sometimes, and so for the protection of all our players, we need to turn it off. Like, shut the fuck up, we're gamers. We're not here to get hurt by words like, oh no, he called me an asshole through the voice chat. How am I going to move on now?
Honestly, you sound like a potential homosexual.
Enough. Like, no, we need to get these decisions off. Whoever's making these decisions, they need to go. Otherwise, your companies are not going to last very long, brothers. And yes, this includes looking at Bond and going, oh no, we cannot do the classic Bond. We cannot do this. I mean, it's so tone-deaf and insensitive. No, we must reflect a moral value. No, you don't. It's puzzling why this keeps happening, really. All that a modern audience or modern values means these days is that they're going to take away exciting elements that play with morality in interesting ways, dialogues that flow more naturally and aren't afraid of offending anyone with no words, and depictions of harsh realities that aren't afraid of shocking people, all just to sanitize the shit out of the game and replace it with safe, lifeless, boring, and forgettable elements that take no risks. Fans of Deus Ex would want Adam to be Adam. They wouldn't want a new remake to come in and, change the character to be something else. And fans of 007 want Bond to be Bond. It's as simple as that. And hey, again, Lara Croft. What do Lara Croft fans want? They want Lara Croft to be Lara Croft. But how the fuck could this be? How could I? You know what, you guys, fellas, homies, elite echelon top of the fucking industry. I can't even speak right now. I've been drinking all day, brothers. But let me just say something. If you're looking for a consultant that is far better than whatever the fuck you've been consulting with for the past few years, if you want to take your companies upwards and earn big bags of money, you will find my contacts in the description and on my X account. Please shoot me a message. I'll work for you at a fraction of the price that these assholes and retards that you're consulting with are charging you, and I will make sure that your games turn out to be much better. Anyway, where was I? Alright, so we need to talk about progressiveness now, okay? Because this is all that it comes down to, right? James Bond, they don't see it as a progressive character, they want to make it more modern, more acceptable to current audiences, etc. And there's a big issue with the core of the argument here, which is the very nature of progressiveness and how it doesn't stop. And this is going to be a big one, okay? I've been rambling a lot, this one's going to be an even longer thing, okay? So grab some chicken nuggets or something and get locked in. So this is mainly in relation to Elias's argument that to the game's media, the Daniel Craig movies were a standard of modern masculinity. Now here's the thing, to the excess media of yesteryear, the Daniel Craig movies were steps in the right direction, as he said. The Daniel Craig movies presented Bond's modern masculinity, but they weren't perfect, because nothing ever is when it comes to the constant push of progressiveness. For example, a few years ago, these outlets might call it modern masculinity in a positive way, but if you guys notice, more recently, masculinity as a whole is often attacked as a negative thing. And we've seen various examples of this as time has gone by across all sorts of entertainment. Basically, in other words, the quote-unquote progress is never enough. There's always more boxes to be ticked on the road of progressiveness. I mean, holy shit, just look at what they did to Doctor Who. We've had a female Doctor Who, a gay black Doctor Who, non-binary characters, pronoun lessons, weird narratives about disabled people, and not wanting to put evil characters in wheelchairs because supposedly that's going to teach people to look at disabled people in real life, like people in wheelchairs in real life, like at a line at Tesco or something, and think legitimately, right here, in real life, that they're evil. Because apparently society is composed of a bunch of fucking mouth-breathing, drooling retards who learn morals and derive moral judgments from whatever is on TV. Again, fellas, this isn't me saying this. This is what these movie and TV show producers believe. This is why they make the decisions that they make. I mean, shit. Here's a clip. If you think I'm lying, here, play the clip, editor. Or am I kidding? It's me fucking editing. I ain't got no goddamn money.
Time and society and culture and taste has moved on, and there's a problem with the Davros of old in that he's a wheelchair user who is evil. And I had problems with that, and a lot of us on the production team had the problems with that, of associating disability with evil. So we made the choice to bring back Davros without the facial scarring and without the wheelchair or his support unit, which functions as a wheelchair. I say this is how we see Davros now. This is what he looks like. This is 2023, and that we are absolutely standing by. I think it was absolutely vital to do this, and I'm very, very, very proud of the fact that we have.
Oh my god, we are so cooked. We are so cooked, guys. Like, how are these the people who are working in, like, mainstream TV shows? You know, handling millions and millions of dollars. How is this possible? How have we got here? We have legitimate retards who think that if you watch an episode of Doctor Who and there's an evil guy in a cyber disabled chair, you know, a cyber wheelchair or whatever, and then you happen to go out at, you know, to Tesco's to buy some, I don't know, some bread and some milk or some shit, and you see a poor disabled person just hanging out, you know, doing their thing, buying whatever the hell they want to buy, you will look at them and be like, oh my god, it's one of those evil disabled people, just like in the TV show. They must be, just like in the TV show, they're all evil, they're all bad. Oh god. Progressiveness and identity politics are so irredeemably dumb. Holy crap. And they are at the forefront of entertainment, dude. Jesus. What do I even say, fellas? Just please subscribe. Subscribe so I can buy some more ibuprofen. My stock is running low. Blessings of Talos upon you. Sorry about that, guys. Maybe I'm a bit of a sad drunk, I don't know. Anyway, now, of course, it's gaming's turn. It's time for video games to be irradiated with the same hazardous cringe that we've seen crashing and burning all across other forms of entertainment. Yay, I'm so excited. Aren't you excited, guys?
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents?
Bond is no different. It's a target of the same form of fake media narratives that make it look like there's gazillions of people out there who are oh so excited for the idea of a new female James Bond or a gay James Bond, both of which, by the way, would have no problem at all with the qualities of being seductive and a womanizer. I mean, for the woman it wouldn't be a problem as long as it was like a gay thing, and for the gay guy it wouldn't be a womanizer, it would be a, what is it, a manonizer? I don't fucking know. Basically, these things are only a problem when it's heteronormative, but when it's not, it's actually supported with articles like this one, where the same kinds of outlets that demonize Bond's, you know, seductive nature and the way that he's bold with women, encouraging fans to goon away to LGBTQ, etc. types of characters. But anyway, let's carry on. You know, a black James Bond as well, hell, maybe even a trans James Bond. After all, that's what they tried to pull with Zelda just a couple of months ago. Well, not a couple, a few by now. In case you didn't know, there was a bit of a media movement online trying to pretend as if there were millions of fans hankering for the upcoming Zelda movie to cast Hunter Schafer as Zelda. But if you looked anywhere online, you'd actually see that that's not at all what was going on. That's not what the public perception was. Because believe it or not, when it comes to entertainment franchises such as Zelda or Doctor Who or 007 or, you know, let's keep adding some more, Dragon Age or Tomb Raider or Lords of the Fallen or Mass Effect or hell, Marvel and Star Wars, so on and so forth, what people want is entertainment. There is a genuine fatigue for seeing entertainment hijacked for socio-political messaging and activism. People are getting real tired of this shit, and it has seeped into gaming over the past few years with consultant companies companies and even entire venues such as Game Developers Conference running presentations like these to indoctrinate and teach developers on how to screw up their games with this kind of garbage. And even Gamescom, who was also very outspoken last year in 2025 about wanting more politics in video games because it's straight up a responsibility. All receipts of what I'm talking about right now are on screen in case you are an audio listener. Like, this is actually happening. This is real. It shows the nature of progressiveness. It never stops. It's never enough. And I swear, man, I'm shaking my head as I say this. Like, I'm disgusted to report this shit. The head of Gamescom, a thing that should be all about gaming and entertainment, talking about how it's a responsibility to inject politics into video games because video games can be influential to millions and even billions of people worldwide. Genuinely, I'm done even carrying on with this point. I think I've more than exposed the absolute bullshit running underneath. And I don't even mean this as an attack on Elias because I don't know how much he knows. He could very well not know a single damn thing about this at all. Literally just, getting a call from his agent or whatever to go to a new studio and voice whatever new game he has to voice, and that's it. But this is what's scurrying underneath the games industry. This is reality, and the reality of progressiveness is that it doesn't ever stop. There's never really a point where you've done enough. So yes, maybe access media outlets used to praise Daniel Craig's James Bond as a step in the right direction, as a good new take on Bond's modern masculinity, but all of this is subject to change. It just depends on which activists are going to get their hands on your game, or how many. It's nice to see that they made James Bond at least a British man, but I have zero trust to hand out to this industry. There's no leeway to be cut here. I'll see it when I actually see it. Until then, I will scrutinize the words that they choose to put out there when it comes to, advertising their game. Keyword here, by the way, the words they choose to present their game with. So the next response has to do with basically people who are taking the statement, ignoring the whole weird activism undertones and just straight up agreeing with what's there. There's a lot of replies with this sort of narrative defending it, so let's just take one and talk about it. What's wrong with a modern man? What's wrong with a man who respects women? People who conform to antiquated norms and morals like you saw in The Man with a Golden Gun don't realize how stupid they sound. So right off the bat, you see the reason as to why you don't hate the media enough. Their bullshit narrative of pretending as if the old school James Bond is just this weird, raging misogynist who goes around beating women for no goddamn reason is already working. And so you get people like this who build a straw man out of shit like that, genuinely thinking that that's what old school Bond embodies. And so then, of course, why would you, as a normal person, have a problem with a more quote-unquote modern man who respects women? And why would anyone conform to the antiquated norms and morals such as the one with The Man in the Golden Gun, where the titular hero 007 just goes around smacking hoes left and right? I mean, you'd have to be a totally out of touch, stupid, and downright malicious person to believe that and conform to it. But ironically, the real stupidity is believing that that's what's actually in the movie, and that that's what 007 was actually like and represented. Plus, of course, what we already went over in the first part of the video about how stupid these people are to look for movies and video game characters to be embodiments of moral perfection because, oh god, oh geez, what are we gonna do if they aren't? Oh man, what's gonna happen to society? What's gonna happen to society if there are flawed characters? Oh, no, the world's going to end. Society will collapse in on itself. Oh my god. The whole argument is ass. It frames things in a position where any interpretations of a man that isn't a modern man with modern values is inherently one that does not respect women. This is outright stupid, fake, and frankly, I'm not even gonna say it. That's not what happened in the movie, and I'm tired of flirtation between male and female characters to be treated as disrespecting women. Meanwhile, again, if the characters are LGBT, then they are allowed to be as lewd as they want to because that's cute and good.
You're assuming he as a pronoun.
True. Yes, sorry, good point.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
But oh no, if it's a man and a woman, then it's icky and uncomfy, and it's like bad because it like sets a negative standard. Let's just drop the cope, okay? Also, what is even a modern man? Like, what is it that composes this status? Is it just not harming women? Because congratulations, it sounds like the old Bond is a modern man too. Unless the definition of modern man is not harming women even in circumstances of self-defense, in which case, it sounds like the new Bond is going to be a retard and... Like, he's faced with a situation where a woman is holding another one hostage or aiming a gun at him and about to shoot, and he's just going to let her do whatever she wants because, well, he's a modern man, and we all know that modern men should never touch women. This is so stupid. Like, imagine there's this villain woman, and she just grabs like a kid and has the kid hostage, is about to harm the kid, and James Bond is the only one who can save the poor kid, but he's like, nope. I can't do it. If I do it, they're gonna cancel me on Twitter. I can't do it. I'm sorry, buddy. You're gonna have to take one for the team. Rest in peace. You won't be missed. Also, is the definition of modern man specifically aiming for no flirtatious actions or womanizing at all? This one here is more nuanced, to be fair. I mean, the old Bond, the old school one, like the real old one, was very forward. And in this case, the Daniel Craig Bond, at least initially, was still suave, but not too handsy under the same type of circumstances. If that's what they're going for here, I don't have a problem at all. But again, the nature of progressivism is a pain in the ass, and for all I know, they just removed this aspect of the character entirely. Like, I don't even remember seeing a single femme fatale potential love interest in the trailer. I remember some boring looking tech girl or whatever, and then another one with a manlier haircut than James Bond himself, so I mean, I don't know, fellas. I guess we'll see when a game comes out. It isn't even that long from now. If it doesn't get delayed, we are looking at just 3 months. What I find interesting is that at this point, the last iteration that we had of Bond movies was Daniel Craig's with multiple movies, already dating back to 2006. And so if this is what they were going for, as Elia Tufexis suggests, then why go out of their way to separate themselves from all Bond movies so much? Why not nod to the most recent ones from Daniel Craig and just say, hey, we're going for the current iteration of Bond, but younger, or whatever, you know, something like that, instead of straight up crossing that off like, nah, Bond has evolved over the decades, and so this is a modern man with a modern value, or rather, we want to represent modern values. Like, you know what that shit makes me think of? It makes me think of modern man from TikTok. Like, how much modern can you get when it comes to James Bond? Lastly, before we conclude by going over the specific words that they use and the intentions that imply that I find very suspicious from the developers, I want to talk a bit about this evolved cope. It won't take too long. But this has been an annoying theme before, both said by the developer himself in the quote and the journo in the article, but also some fans. Like this. Honestly, reading most of these comments is exhausting. Yeah, by the way, get used to it, buddy. It's not going to go away anytime soon. You continue acknowledging that there is very clearly a problem here with unpopular ideas being churned out, but the reaction is to be mad about it and cope instead of accepting that people don't want this done to old IPs, or even to new ones. People don't want garbage. Anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Let me start over. Honestly, reading most of these comments is exhausting. It's all the same crap posted by butthurt idiots that can't accept that things, whether it's movies, books, games, and characters, all evolve over time. If this person just stopped for a second and analyzed their own comment, just read it back to themselves and think for 1 second about what they're saying, the answer is right there. This person is exhausted because most of the comments that they're seeing are complaining about the direction that they're taking the character in. Then in the same breath, without even any punctuation to pause in between, they say that everything evolves over time. If people are not accepting something changing, that means it's not fucking evolving. What we're seeing is something being forced that way. They want to force this change and disguise it as progress or evolution. They've been doing this shit for years, and in some IPs they have done it so bluntly that they are pissing people off, driving them away from once beloved franchises, and in some cases creating whole movements online that abhor the shit that they're doing so much that they speak out. and create their own thing sometimes as well. Like, you're right, some things do evolve over time, but this is not an example of that. Culture changes. For example, fashion. If a guy wore his hair and his clothes the way that it was fashionable in the 1970s, he'd stick out like a sore thumb. If he talked with popular words and phrases at the time, he'd stick out even more. So on, so forth. There are subtle changes that happen over time, to fashion, to language, to certain behaviors, etc. But that doesn't apply to everything, nor does it apply to the core identity of something. There's many pieces of media out there that have evolved over time, like comic book heroes, for example. Their designs have changed here and there, the interpretations of the cities that they inhabit and the villains that they fight have modernized themselves to be more relatable to our world in some cases, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to spend an hour breaking this down, including when it's done to a degree where people don't like it because it doesn't always work out. Modernization isn't really as easy and natural as some morons on the internet might tell you. But anyway, let's get back to the thing. Some things may have changed, but what remained the same was the core of these characters. That's what always has to remain intact. Otherwise, they're just not the same characters. Like, sure, go ahead and modernize James Bond's gadgets, go ahead and modernize James Bond's look, the clothes he wears, the guns he uses, the cars he drives. Instead of old concepts for villains, use modern ones like hackers and shit, I don't know, so on and so forth. But if you're ever at a point where you're taking the core characteristics of a character, and you want to fundamentally change them for the elusive modern audience that can afford their hair dye, let alone fucking movie tickets or a $70 game, then just stop. Because at that point, again, it's not the same character anymore. If James Bond is too offensive for you and your group of Karens to, at the studio to handle, then there's a very easy solution. Don't develop the game. Let another studio that isn't obsessed with optics and political correctness take the license to the IP and make something good and loyal to the damn thing. I mean, shit, look at the recent RoboCop games. That's what the fuck you need to see with James Bond. A totally unfiltered take on the classic where we're bursting through doors and tearing down scores of criminals instead of modernizing it with modern values and social awareness, which would have RoboCop instead, like walk in with a warrant, knock on the door, wait for somebody to come to the door, like, hey, what is up, hey, how's it going? I heard you guys are like moving drugs and stuff over here, so I brought you this big bag of money to distribute to you because you guys are poor little marginalized criminals who have, turned to a life of crime because it's our fault. It's the system that failed you, you poor little victims. What can I say? I mean, accountability? What's that? Can I wipe my ass with it? It doesn't matter. It's our fault. I'm sorry. The city of Detroit apologizes and will from now on be funding your drug and get the fuck out of here with this shit, huh? It's RoboCop, not RoboCock, okay? Or Soy Cop, okay? If you can't handle the IP, leave it for someone else, but sadly 007 is too big for that, too big to be given the same treatment from a smaller studio anymore, so we need big publishers involved and we need committees of Karens to make sure that nothing antiquated and harmful is being shown. And then in the end, we're going to pretend like it's all just natural evolution that just occurs naturally over time. Listen, man. To anyone else trying to pull this card or any of the other ones seen in this video, you're going to need to try a lot harder with your lines of bullshit going forward because people are waking up to it and it's not working anymore. Alright. Now let's close this off with one last note in regards to the intent behind everything. We're gonna pick back up from where we left off with the Daniel Craig movies being adequate for this modern vision, and yet the developers setting themselves aside from even that by further emphasizing the modern values talk. At the end of the day, I like looking at why people do or say something rather than what even they're saying exactly. One of my first videos was doing exactly this for things told by the developers of Dragon Age Veilguard before launch, and that worked pretty goddamn well in predicting how the game ended up in the end, how obsessive it was with optics and certain things to do with gender identity politics. And for the life of me, I just don't understand why these developers are emphasizing this whole modern bullshit so much for this game. Because every studio out there at the moment knows very well how delicate things are in the games industry, especially for AAA. They know that they're under the magnifying glass, and if they follow certain patterns, they know that the best thing that they can do for their games is to speak as little as possible about this type of thing specifically. We've been seeing a lot of cases of studios virtue signaling or even attacking their own fan bases for asking questions or just straight up criticizing certain elements of their games, and this has been having abhorrent results over the past few years. And the best they can do is just focus on the gameplay and what it actually offers. Also, authenticity is important. So, basically, if I was to pretend like I'm a game developer and I was asked the exact same question about, quote, whether or not their spy will share some of the earlier Bond's characteristics, specifically focusing on the character's womanizer tendencies, then my response, even if I was making a very woke game, for lack of a better word, would have been something along the lines of, alright, well fellas, the team has been very hard at work developing our James Bond. And what I can say is, we looked at the most iconic Bond movies and we took the best elements to adapt it to our younger version of the character. This will be a James Bond who shares many of the classic Bond traits that you've come to enjoy, along with some new ones that will hopefully be able to further develop as he grows into his own version of the iconic 007, hopefully in future installments. Bam. That's it. You don't gotta say anything else. You don't have to embellish. You don't have to go out of your way to condemn something. You don't owe these journalists anything. And if they doubled back on the womanizer thing, pressuring it, you could just repeat the same exact thing in different words, and that's it. You'd be done. You just say that you don't want to give too much away in terms of spoilers, bam. You don't gotta embellish on anything else. And that's already if I knew that I was making a cringe game. Because even if I was making a cringy game, I would want to make sure that as few details slip away before launch as possible that might have a chance to tank the game. At the very least, I would be self-aware that, okay, I'm working on some cringe here. I know that there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to like this. I've seen what's been happening to other games where this thing kind of either gets leaked out or developers go and virtue signal about it to game journals and then everybody mocks it on the internet. I don't want that for my game, so I'm going to keep as few details out in the open as possible so that I can sell as many copies as possible when the goddamn game comes out. That would be my mentality because I would want to make money. That's it. It's as simple as that. And unless you have your head stuck up your ass and you don't know what's going on, then you should know, especially if you work in the games industry, that money these days isn't coming from the games media. In fact, many times it's the other way around. You'll find them giving 9s out of 10s to games that flopped and then telling people to please play them. And again, that's if I knew that I was working on cringe against my will, because if the entire game was up to me, I wouldn't even be doing any of this modern shit nor any of this young Bond shit. I'd be going for an older, more mature and established Bond. And I would be doing it set in an earlier timeline, like maybe the late 90s or early 2000s at most, because that's how you retain some of the magic of the gadgets as well. A bit of an older world with great gadgets that feel futuristic without looking like ass, you know what I mean? Like you do a modern age Bond and that magic is gone because our smartphones are more high-tech than anything those older Bond movies had. So in order to still have that super spy magic, you need to go into weird territory like cringy, unrealistic hacking bullshit or things that look like alien technology, and that isn't always the best for an audience's suspension of disbelief.
Either that or you gotta go and do wacky AI stuff, or like the Avengers movies where they got like a quantum whatever the fuck magic technology, like the Iron Man suit, which instead of a cool mechanical mumbo-jumbo thing strapping itself to his body, we have some shiny nonsense that materializes on his body like, whoa bro, it's quantum vibranianology rays from space, or whatever the f***.
With all due respect, what the fuck are you talking about?
Anyway, what the fuck was I talking about? I don't even know anymore, man. I'm scattered as hell in this video. The drinks were off or something. The point is, promoting your Bond game by basically telling Bond fans to not bother, since apparently the thing that they like is tone deaf, has gotta be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, that's some tourist shit. At that point, he may as well just be making more Hitman games. And that's why I find this so interesting. It's that he went and said those things anyway. And like, why do that? They know it's unpopular. They have to by now, so why go into this angle of it instead of just being vague and then letting the game speak for itself when it comes out. We are so close to the release date as well. I mean, holy crap, maybe the game would even have been good enough, gameplay and narrative-wise, that people would be able to overlook and excuse some non-Bondisms on account of the character still being like a young version, you know, and a couple of tiresome soy boy male and female character designs by offsetting it with parts of the game that they did like. But now, anything people see will no longer be excused with that, and will instead be seen as deliberate mischaracterizations because of not wanting to offend anyone. And so now, to conclude, I'll just add a little disclaimer. I know nothing. I'm just a dude reading statements and situations and thinking freely and critically. I don't have any direct insight into this game, nor do I know who this developer is. I won't even go and look into him so that I don't throw in more bias over something that he may or may not have on his social media account, because at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter to me what a developer believes in or not. What I care about is that when they get to work, they leave those biases at the door and just work on delivering the best version of what they are creating. But based on all that we just went through, I find this whole thing concerning, and I don't blame people for being uninterested in the game or just complaining about it, especially hardcore Bond fans. Like, let's face it, 007 isn't a franchise for kids, it's a mature thing for adults. If we're going to make a Bond game, make a Bond game. Don't have the hubris of taking Bond and wanting to mold him into something that you want to see him as because of you personally finding the past iterations distasteful or not representative enough of your modern sensitivities. I really don't know where this shit is going to stop, but I just wish that in general, when people are taking an established character or IP to make a game or a movie or whatever, they would hand it to a fan of the damn thing instead of someone who straight up doesn't like it and thinks it's tone deaf. Like, what the hell are you doing? What happened to entertainment? Like, Jesus. Anyway, fellas, this was just a little detour. Big list videos are coming where I glaze and roast the best and worst of 2025, so stay tuned. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, giving it a like really helps me out, and hey, subscribe if you're new for more like this and much more. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care out there.